Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are all having a blessed week. Well, let's see what's going on in the garage. We got the Harley down off the rack so I can buzz around on it a little bit. We got the Honda up. I gotta rebuild the carburetor on that one. It's sputtering a little bit. But listen, I wanted to make a video today about Christian relics. And these are relics that are, basically throughout the world. And a lot of people think they have to cling to relics. And I wanted to go over them and use a little bit of common sense and see if we can shed a little bit of light on this subject. Well, the first one it's called the Holy Lance, or the Spear of Destiny, or the Lance of Longinus. And that's the spear that supposedly stuck through the side of Jesus when the water and blood came out. Now, the Gospel of Nicodemus, which is it's an extra biblical writing, the Gospel of Nicodemus refers to that Roman soldier that stuck that spear in Jesus. His name was Longinus, and that's where that Spear of Destiny gets its name. Now, that spear has been sought after by a lot of people. Adolf Hitler, one of the first things he did when he came to power was he sent a dispatch to look for that spear, because it said that whoever holds that spear will rule, and they can rule the world as long as they got that spear. And so far in history, there's actually been 3 that they claim was the Spear of Longinus. So listen, in 1098, on June 15th, 1098, during the First Crusades, they claim to have found that spear. And they found it in the city of Antioch. All right, and that's the one that's been called the Spear of Destiny and the Lance of Longinus. Found in Antioch in 1098. All right, now listen. Let's use common sense, okay? Common sense. All right, Jesus was one of many of thousands of people that were crucified, right? So here we have Jesus on the cross, this Roman soldier, and a bunch of other Roman soldiers in the area, and this guy sticks Jesus in the side, okay? Now, what are the chances of anybody getting that spear from that Roman soldier? If that Roman soldier lost his weapon, it would be death to him. He would get the death sentence for losing that spear. And that night, it was just another day, that night, he went back to the barracks and put his spear in the armory with all the others. There's no chance of anybody ever getting a hold of that spear. It would be years before anybody would even think, hey, that's a pretty cool relic. Let's go see if we can find it. Never happened. Never happened. There's no one who knows what that spear is, where it is. It would just, common sense would tell you there's no way anybody's getting that spear. Not going to happen. Now, the 3 nails, one in each hand, and the one in the feet that nailed Jesus to the cross. Well, they're inside a vault in the Vatican. The Vatican claims to have those 3 nails. Now common sense. Let's think about those 3 nails. Jesus, one of many thousands to be crucified. They bring him up there, they reach into a bucket, and they pull out 3 nails. They nail Jesus to the cross. He goes up there and he dies. They take him down. They pull the nails out of him and they throw those 3 nails. They probably didn't even wash them off. They took them and threw them back in the same bucket with all the other nails. You think anybody on that day walked up to one of them Roman soldiers and said, hey, can I have those nails? No way. And it, just like the spear, it would be years and years before anyone would ever think, hey, that's a pretty good relic. Let's go see if we can find those nails. Never happened. Never happened. There's something about human beings that think, and Satan's behind all this. They think that, well, I'm not going to believe unless I can see something. So the nails, no way. This guy named Amalek, the Christian king of Jerusalem, in 1162, he went looking. And he wrote about everything they found. This is what they had in 1162. This is 1,100 years after Jesus died on the cross. He said they had the cross, the cross beam. They had that. They had the nails. They had the lance. He said they even found the sponge that they held up to Jesus. The reed that held the sponge, they had that little stick. The crown of thorns, and the shroud, and the sandals. That's what all this king possessed in 1162. All right, now let's use some common sense and let's think about that. The sponge. When those guys took that sponge and dipped it in the myrrh, held it up to his mouth, when they brought it back down, you know what they did? They threw that sponge back in the same bucket with all the other sponges. It'd be years before it'd be considered a relic. The crown of thorns, when they took Jesus down off that cross, they took that crown of thorns and threw it on the ground somewhere. The reed went on the ground, a little stick, the reed went on the ground with the crown of thorns, never to be seen again. The sandals, if Jesus was wearing sandals when he got to the cross, it went with that pile of clothes, and whatever Roman soldier, when they cast lots to see who got the clothes, the sandals would be in that lot. And that Roman soldier probably took them and either used them or sold them, never to be seen again. There's only one relic in all of Christianity that I believe in, that I believe is most likely, and I'm almost positive that it is true, and that is the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin, it was found by the Savoys, it came to light in 1578 when the Savoys moved it to the capital of Turin, and it's been there ever since. It's in the chapel of the Holy Shroud. Now listen. Shroud's been carbon dated. First time they used one of the patch material wasn't accurate. The second one was. But the image that is on that shroud shows absolutely a man that has been crucified and a man that is wearing a crown of thorns. They've tested it under microscopes, with lasers. They've tested it with everything. And that image that is on that shroud is not paint. It's burned into it, and that would happen when Jesus rose from the dead. That image is burned into that shroud, and I believe that shroud is true. I believe it is legitimate. I believe it's real. But everything else, all this other stuff, the crossbeam went back in a pile with all the others. The nails went back in the bucket. The Lance, Longinus, put it back in the armory. The reed went back on the ground with the crown of thorns. The sponge back in the bucket. All these things, there's no way that any of these things were ever found or ever grabbed. Because number one, if you didn't grab them the moment the crucifixion took place, even 2 days later you could never find the original ones that were used. Never happened. So I don't believe in any of these relics except the Shroud of Turin. That is the only one that I believe is legit, and I believe it because of the image that is burned into it. So anyway, guys, listen. When it comes to relics, we don't need them. I know that the Lord Jesus Christ is the Lord. There's ample evidence when you look at the evidence of the Bible alone It proves that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He came, he died on a cross, paid a sin debt that you couldn't pay, and he did it so you could go to heaven. You don't have to have a relic to look at. All you have to do is say, Lord Jesus, forgive me of my sins. I turn my life over to you. Please, Lord, when you come in your kingdom, remember me. That's all it takes. Anyhow, I just want to give you something to think about. Heaven or hell, you choose. Just remember, once you take your last breath, it's a done deal.